Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, June 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Ball State game in 92 days, the game against Michigan in 176 days. We're sponsored today by Jeff Ruby's of Columbus, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus or scan that convenient QR code on your screen right now to check out the menu and make a reservation today. All right, this weekend, week number 2 of official visits for the Ohio State Buckeyes in the month of June. And I'm going to be talking about 6 players who are going to be visiting Columbus this weekend. Going to be welcoming in Juck Miletti from BuckeyeInsiders.com. Juck, let's start with a couple guys who are committed to the class. We know, no problem. Wyatt Smith, top 100 defensive end from St. Thomas Aquinas, and Eli Johnson, 4-star safety commit. Both of those guys going to be in town this weekend.
Rock solid dudes, rock solid Buckeyes. Cowboy Jr., can't wait to get that dude on campus, man. I love that kid. And Eli Johnson, top 200 overall safety out of Cibolo, Texas, 6'3", 200 pounds. This is another 3 years in a row, top of the board guy for Matt Guerrieri that he fell in love with when he came up for camp last year and locked in on him and brings the kid out of Texas. So Matt Guerrieri has been just a stud since he's been here on the recruiting trail. And this is another one, no muss, no fuss. There's not been a single word of anything else but Ohio State out of him.
All right, so there are 2 guys who are committed who are visiting this weekend. There is a third guy who is committed who is also visiting this weekend. That is Angelo Smith, the safety commit out of South Florida, who is also sort of probably better known to some people as Jeremiah Smith's younger brother. He's also visiting this weekend, but he's in maybe a little bit of a different category from the other 2 guys.
Well, I mean, as everybody knows, Angelo is a kid who's going to need a growth spurt to play at Ohio State. There's just, no other way to put it. Well, we don't see many 5'8.5" football players on the field at Ohio State. So there is a caveat there about him. But he's a heck of a football player. That can't be denied. He's a great athlete. He's got a great mentality. He's also one of the very few Ohio State commits who has taken an official and is being recruited by someone else while committed. And that, of course, is USF and Brian Hartline. And I do think it's of note there because there is a relationship with Hartline and because he is from down there and because you can play at USF as a 5'9" safety if you're an excellent safety. It's a different caliber of football. So I do think it's something to keep an eye on.
All right, Wyatt Smith, we mentioned earlier, out of St. Thomas Aquinas. He is not the only St. Thomas Aquinas player coming to Ohio State this weekend. There's also Jaden Carey. He is a 4-star cornerback out of that same school in South Florida that has produced a whole lot of talented football players. He will be visiting the Buckeyes and Tim Walton this weekend as well.
One of the few that is on Walt's board remaining that is 6 foot or above, right? And we know that he's been going for those bigger body corners, and I wouldn't call him a bigger body corner, but he does hit that 6 foot mark, and he's kind of flirting with Miami right now, but there's some question as to how serious that really is on their end. As far as Ohio State, he's not, I don't believe the top of the tier guy. There's an interesting thing going on with really all the visitors this week is that, and he's one instance where I'm not so sure it's an immediate take. I'm not so sure Ohio State would want a commitment immediately from him because I think that when we look at the local guys, in Deontay Malone out of Massillon, Montana Torbert, the Indiana commit out of Princeton, that those aren't the 2 guys that Walt would prefer. And I think he's only going to take 2. So interesting stuff with Jaden Carey. My personal opinion, I would prefer both the in-state guys to him. And rankings wise, that would correspond as well as the in-state guys are both ranked higher. But personally, I just think you got a real interesting crew with Deontay Malone, just a crazy athlete, and Montana Torbert, an absolute burner. But it'll be interesting to see how this goes with Jaden Carey because I'm just not quite sure if it's there yet. But this official might change all that.
And Jaden Carey is not the only Jayden visiting this weekend. Jaden Miles, he spells his first name with a Y in the middle of it. He is a 2027 running back out of Louisiana. And we know who is number 1 on the board at running back. That is David Gabriel George. That has not been a secret for quite a while. And David Gabriel George visited last weekend. Jaden Miles, also a very, very talented running back. He is on he's going to be on campus this weekend.
Yeah, 6'2", 200 pounds. So a big dude, smooth runner, not a really physical runner for a guy that size. From Blaine Bradford's high school, Catholic high school in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And LSU is in on this recruitment, but so is Florida State and Kentucky. And I actually think Florida State right now would be the one I would choose as the leader in this recruitment after an official visit there last weekend that just went fantastic. And Jaden Miles is coming up here under this awkward scenario, right? He knows he's not Ohio State's number one target. They know he's not the number one target. Is he the fallback plan? I mean, he's really the only one now that Nigel Newkirk, the other guy they had scheduled, who I liked a lot more, committed to Alabama. And now it's essentially, we're going to hope that DGG makes his decision July 22nd before Jaden Miles makes his decision. What if he wants to commit? Do they take him? It's not going to scare off David Gabriel George, but does he want to be in a class with DGG and make that decision before DGG? So you got this real awkward spot here with him as how do you hold him off before July 22nd? And then if it goes wrong with DGG, push really, really hard and say, we loved you all along. It's just one of those things, man. That's what happens when you go all in on somebody. You got to win.
Yeah, roster management has gotten even more fun, and that's for depending on your definition of fun. I know that if you are a college football personnel guy, but it is probably not as not the typical definition of fun. But yeah, it is. Things are always a little complicated, a little bit interconnected. The last guy we got to talk about, Kaylon Bailey. This is a high school end position where Ohio State has had a ton of success over the years. He is a linebacker from Glenville. You may remember that combination from players such as Arvell Reese and Sincere Johnson and probably many others over the years. What do we need to know about him?
A 6'1", 220, thick-built kid who is rated right about 1,000 in the country. And boy, that does not align with his film. He's an edge, and maybe that has a little bit to do with it. He's obviously moving to linebacker, and Laurinaitis is the one recruiting him because he is super twitched up, and he's got a nose for the football. I think that this dude is, without a doubt, a four-star blue-chip player that has been mischaracterized as of such. And it's almost interesting when you look at Glenville, the players they've produced, the fact that Ohio State has offered him, which means Ted Ginn Sr. has endorsed him, a guy that's put handfuls of players at Michigan and Ohio State, that they would have any doubt and still have him ranked in the thousands. He's a dude. And Vince Morrow knows he's a dude. And we know that Vince Morrow from Youngstown with the Stoops brothers was running things with Stoops at Kentucky. He's all over him now that he's the AD or the GM at Louisville, and they're coming after him really, really hard. What once looked like an absolute layup for the Buckeyes doesn't look like a layup anymore. And now they're going to really have to get into the nitty-gritty of trying to convince him to get in this class as the clear LB3 at Ohio State versus the well-paid star linebacker at Louisville. And we've been in this situation a lot recently. Sometimes it's gone our way. Sometimes it hasn't. But what once looked like a lock doesn't look like one anymore. And it's going to be really interesting to watch how this plays out here. This is always this awkward scenario that we find ourselves in now. When you're the top dog, these really good players are sometimes your third choice.
Well, there you go. There's a look at 6 guys coming in this weekend for official visits at Ohio State. They always do a nice job with those official visit trips. Lots of, get the chance to tour the campus. You get a chance to get all your questions answered. Also get treated pretty well. I don't know if they're going to be at Jeff Ruby's Steakhouse, but if they are, they will get an A-plus meal, as you always do there. It is the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, named one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. You just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to check out the menu and make a reservation today. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.